Welcome back, Groovie Ghoulies. Two teens stumble upon a macabre murder while on a late night walk in our 13th caller story, The Torn Man. Alright, caller, you're on the air.
I was drunk. Not too drunk, but enough that I couldn't drive, and Bethany's party showed no signs of stopping. I would have stayed longer, but I had jazz class in the morning and needed to sleep. Who wants to be surrounded by brass instruments while nursing a hangover? I pulled the hood of my jacket up and hugged Bethany goodbye, then shuffled into the chilly midnight air. Brian, our saxophonist, waited for me at the bottom of the porch, his hair a mess on one side. He'd fallen asleep on the couch after pounding 6 shots of Jameson. I don't know if that's impressive to anyone else, but I'm a lightweight, so 6 shots seemed like a lot. "Can I walk you home?" he asked. "Sure." I walked past the cars parked along the border of Bethany's driveway, and Brian followed. "Come on, I know a shortcut." He stepped in front of me to squeeze between 2 pickups and crawled over the top of a wooden fence separating the driveway from the neighbor's apple orchard, and waited. "I'm not wandering through the orchard." "But it's a straight shot home." "How are we going to cross the ditch?" The ditch was a small gully filled with fast-moving water. The stuff was glacial runoff, which meant it was freezing year-round, but especially cold in the middle of winter. Not something I was keen on navigating while tipsy. "There's like a wooden bridge every 10 feet. Trust me, I cut through the orchard all the time." The cold stung my nose, and I knew a severe case of the sniffles was incoming. "Okay." I shrugged and climbed over after him. The sooner I was warm, the better. Dim beams of moonlight cut through the bare branches of the apple trees, illuminating our path through the orchard. We made a game of stepping on leaves as we went. "You better know where we're going." I bumped into a tree before stumbling forward and stomping on a crunchy leaf. "I've a vague idea." He smiled and stepped on a pile of leaves that failed to deliver a satisfying crunch. "Now I know why you brought me out here." "Oh yeah? Why is that?" "Jealousy. You're going to murder me." "Tired of playing second string to my mad clarinet skills," I teased. "You got me. There's only room for one reed instrument in first period jazz." We laughed. "But seriously, it's freezing." I zipped my jacket up and tucked my hands into my pockets. I should have worn something thicker, but this windbreaker looked cute on me, which, when attending a party, always trumps practicality. The Spanx were also a poor choice, but I thought I'd be driving home. That's a lie. I assumed someone sober would be kind enough to give a pretty girl a lift. Christ, I'm a terrible planner. The orchard sloped downwards, and somewhere below us was the ditch. Brian eased his way down the incline, occasionally slipping. I followed close behind, but lost my footing and slid to the bottom on my butt. Here, the trees were bigger and closer together, the branches entwined with each other, creating a twisting web that blocked out the moonlight, making it difficult to see. The place was dark and wild. "How much farther? I'm turning into a popsicle here." 10, 20 minutes? The ditch should be around here. I just can't hear it." Brian drew his coat tighter around him and strode ahead. "Maybe it's frozen over?" "Could be." He stopped. Before us, barely visible in the dark, was the shadowy outline of the ditch. Thick blackberry bushes lined the sides. "There." He continued forward, stumbled, and with a shout, fell and rolled backward toward the gully, coming to a stop before the ledge. Below him, ice glittered across the frozen peaks of the river. "Close call," I said, helping him to his feet. Brian dusted himself off. "What did I trip on?" He walked back toward the pile of leaves that caused him to fall and brushed them away. Beneath the leaf litter was a large pale lump. Brian jumped backwards. "It's a body!" "What?" Then I saw the face. Frozen in wide-eyed horror and slashed to ribbons, the man was pale blue and naked, his arms and legs bound by rope behind his back, his torso open in a crisscross pattern. Thin wisps of steam arced from the man's open stomach. His innards lay out before him on the ground. Small crystals of frost decorated their base as they cooled the winter air.
"What do we do?"
he asked. "We go back to Bethany's house and tell someone." I stepped over the body and climbed the hillside. Above me, something moved. I looked up. A man stood atop the hilltop, dressed in a raggedy cowboy hat and shredded jacket with tassels on the sleeves, a knife in his hand. Behind me, Brian called up to him.
"Help! There's a body down here!"
The man didn't move.
"Excuse me, please, we need..."
His eyes drifted to the knife.
"Oh no. What are you two doing at this hour?"
The man asked, playing with his knife, twirling the tip of the blade against his index finger.
"Nothing good could come from it."
And he descended the hill toward us. "You sure there's a bridge?" I whispered. Brian nodded.
"I'm certain of it."
And he grabbed my arm, and we ran. We followed the ditch line, looking for the bridge. The icy air burned my lungs, but I pushed through the pain and kept running. The alcohol in me made each step feel heavy. I stumbled and caught myself. I stumbled again and fell to the ground. My side stung with each breath, a sharp stabbing pain. My stomach tightened and a surge of warm liquid shot up my throat. I threw up. It burned with the taste of cinnamon whiskey and cider. Brian stopped.
"You okay?"
I wiped my mouth with my sleeve. "Yeah, I'm all right." I looked over my shoulder. The man was gone. We heard nothing for a while. Then came a distant humming. The man walked amongst the trees at the base of the hill, a vague human shape blending into the shadows.
"I see the bridge."
Brian's hands grabbed my arm and pulled me to my feet. We ran. As we approached, we could see something was wrong. Yellow caution tape hung across the entrance. Both sides of the bridge bent into the frozen water. It had collapsed. Brian ducked under the tape, and I followed, climbing down behind him. The boards were slick with frost, and the gaps between the planks were small. One slip, and we'd fall through the ice and be swept down the river.
"It's not too far. I think we could jump it."
Brian helped ease me onto the last board. I listened to the rush of the water beneath the ice and pressed myself against the bridge.
"You go first and I'll follow, okay?"
Brian said. I nodded and repositioned myself, balancing on my heels. I jumped and landed on the other side. Unable to grip the boards, I broke through the ice and into the water. I resurfaced next to the bridge, dragged downstream by the current. I grabbed the nearest patch of blackberry vines and pulled myself out of the water. Their hooked barbs dug into my skin, sending pinpricks of fire across my body. I hung inches above the water, tangled amongst the brambles, shivering.
"Hold on, I'll help you,"
Brian said. "Please do. These things hurt, like really bad." He hesitated for a moment, then jumped, landing in the middle of the bridge. Hooking one hand in between the wooden slats, he reached across the bridge for me.
"Grab my hand!"
The vines made climbing difficult. Their thorns gripped my skin and clothing. The harder I fought against them, the more entangled I became. "I can't make it," I said.
"Hold on!"
Brian scooted closer to the edge and tested the nearest patch of vines with his foot. He stepped onto them and extended his hand to me.
"Just a little farther."
In the distance, the man came humming his song. He stepped over the caution tape and rubbed a hand over the stubble on his chin as he studied the situation.
"What a mess. What a mess."
He gauged the distance, stepped back, then jumped, landing at the top of the bridge. He spun around and kicked dirt down on us.
"No, sir. Nothing good can come from being out this late at all."
His hand dipped into his pocket and removed the knife. The blade flicked open, and the man bent down and ran the edge of the knife along Brian's forehead. A thick maroon line trailed behind it. He drug it across in the opposite direction, then back again. Brian whimpered, but held onto the bridge tight. The man sat back on his haunches, admiring his work and digging the tip of the knife into his chin. His eyes flicked over to me. it was my turn. He reached down and pulled my hood back and grabbed my hair. I pulled away, digging myself deeper into the blackberry bushes. The thorns jabbed and cut my face. The hand gripped my hair tighter and yanked me back, but I tried to dig in again, and he yanked me back out. A dull, hard object struck my head, and a warm spot grew across my scalp. The object struck again, jarring my chin into my chest. My vision blurred. I looked over at Brian, and he mouthed,
I'm sorry.
"It's okay," I said. The man brought the butt of the knife down on me. My vision flashed white. At my side, Brian yelled. He launched himself off the bridge, grabbing the man by his arm, and together they tumbled into the water, disappearing under the ice, pulled downstream by the current. I hung from the blackberry bushes. The pain of the thorns was now a dull throb. Below me, the water swirled and pulsed.
I see you've had some complaints about the working conditions at the studio.
A few. But I fed most of the crybabies to the giant mutant ants.
I also hear rumors you're forcing interns to work in a uranium mine underneath the studio.
Well, they're the ones who discovered the giant ants. So, that problem took care of itself.
Okie dokie, that about covers it. We'll check back in a month or two. Bye!
You know, I think I like you better this way. It's good to be back.